Amesy here of Amesy's Antics. Welcome to my channel. I hope you're well today because I have a sewing project to share with you, and one that I have been working on for quite a while, and I'm going to show you how to make a bustier dress. It is from a pattern that I bought on Etsy, and I will link all the details down below for you. But yes, this was a work in progress. I made this for my friend's wedding and it's turned out fabulous, and it is a 1950s inspired dress, I think, as well, so even more perfect. A little bit of vintage and pizzazz. So if you would like to see how to make a bustier dress, then let's get sewing. So for my dress, I have got two chosen materials. The first being the underlay, which is this beautiful mint crepe back satin from Pound Fabrics, and then overlaying over this is a lovely minty green tulle with cherry blossom print from Etsy, and I'll link it all down below in the description below. I've also got a 20-inch zip and some satin ribbon for the ribbon ties of the straps. Then I am using a pattern that I have bought from Etsy, and I believe it is Chickafrick, hopefully that is how you pronounce it, and it is her bustier flary dress. So what I'm doing here is just pinning on the pattern pieces and cutting them out. Now what I've done is traced the pattern, even though it's a PDF pattern, because I am using two different sizes to make my bustier top part of the dress. So I am cutting out two of the satin and one of the tulle. With the two of the satin, one is going to be the lining piece of the dress as well as the underlay. So all I'm doing is cutting it out, and here's all the pieces we need for the dress. So the first thing to do is attach the overlay tulle fabric to the underlay satin fabric so that we have the two layers ready to go for each piece that needs it. So what I am doing is just pinning all the relevant pieces together, wrong side to right side, so the pretty pattern piece of the tulle is facing upwards, and then base stitching these into place, and this just secures them enough so that when I sew it all together, everything is together already, if that makes sense. And then it's time to start creating the bodice. So I am securing the front three pieces together. So you have one main bit of the front with the curved edges, and then two bits that are more straighter. So just pinning these together right sides to right side, and then sewing a 1 centimeter seam down each edge so that they connect, and this will make the front centerpiece of that bodice piece. That makes sense. And to make sewing the dress a bit easier later on, I am also doing the same with the lining pieces now. So any bits that I do for the overlay front piece of the dress, I also do with the lining piece, so then it's all ready to go and get connected together later. And I've also finished off the edges with a zigzag stitch just to stop any of that material from fraying, because satin is very notorious, as you can see from all the little thread ends, of fraying. And after doing the front part of the bodice, I am then turning my attention to the back part, and I have just labelled where the opening of the back zip will be with a Z, so I know which part is for the zip and which part will attach to the back bodice piece. And then just repeating the same process of a 1 centimeter seam, connecting these together, overlocking the edges, and then pressing the seams flat. And then I have the front and the back body pieces ready to go. So what I'm also doing here is then connecting the back bodice piece to the front bodice piece and creating that side seam of the dress. So pinning it together here, and again sewing it together with a 1 centimeter seam allowance. I'm doing this on both sides and making sure to double check where the zip part is going to be, and making sure I'm not connecting the zip part in the wrong bit. And once the bodice bit is complete, it's time to turn the attention to creating the cups. Now I would highly recommend keeping the parts labelled with a bit of paper pinned to each bit, because they do look similar, and each cup is made up of 3 different parts and they need to go together in a certain way to create the cups. So yes, it's very confusing, but once you get which bit is the right bit, they do come together. So the first bit is to create the curved eye-shaped bit, and then pressing the seam open using a sewing ham that I made, so I'll link that above as well if you want to check that out. And then it's just about pinning and sewing on the topped curved part to that cup, which will make the top of the dress. Now it is a little bit tricky, so because it's curved, so make sure that you do it slowly if you're making this dress as well, and then again press it with that iron to iron the seam flat, and this is what the cups should end up looking like. And then it's time to add the cups to that bodice. So the first thing to do is line up that front seam with the front seam of the cup and pinning this into place, making sure it's right side to right side, and it does look a bit weird because it is upside down initially, and then lining up the two edges and then pulling the material to fit into that curve, doing this slowly when sewing and making sure you capture it all in, and because it is curved you do need to take it a bit slower. And I think they recommend once you press it to snip as well, because it can help it lay flat, cut some notches into the seam, should I say. And this is what the cups will look like once attached. So I've tried the dress on several times and I've had to make some adjustments. So you can see here I've taken it in on this seam and a little bit in on the cups as well. I've retried it on. I pinned the zip to this bit so I knew how much of the fabric would be on the zip. So now it is fitting a lot better. It's still not perfect, but I'm hoping once the lining's attached as well, that'll just even some of the bits out. So now it is time to attach the skirt bottom to the top to get some form of dress. Then it'll be time to either add the lining and then put the zipper, or put the zip and then the lining. I'm not quite sure, I can't remember, but I'll see how far I get today and we'll add on the skirt to the bodice. So the first thing I'm doing is adding the two back pieces of the skirt to the front piece to create these side seams, and then I'm going to sew some gathering stitches along the top waistband part of the skirt, and this is 2 rows of longest stitch. And what I'm actually doing here is doing it into little pieces, so leaving long tails but doing about a 10 to 20 centimeter long stitch, then doing a second row of that, then doing another 10%, just in case when I'm gathering like so that it didn't snap and I couldn't gather it at all, and it just gives you stages to gather this skirt in. And I must say I'm doing the gathered skirt version rather than the pleated skirt version. So once all the gathering stitches have been done, it's just a matter of gathering the skirt to fit with the bodice and making sure like the side seams are lining up, and just making sure the gathering is evenly distributed along that skirt. So I have pinned right sides to right side, the bodice and the skirt, and then I'm just going to sew it together at that waist seam, which is a 1 centimeter seam allowance, and this is what it looks like once it is all connected. And I'm doing the same with the lining as well. And then comes the task of placing in the invisible zip. So here is my 20-inch zip that will go down the back of the dress, and what I'm doing is turn it over so it is right side to right side, and then pinning this along the raw edge of the open back on one side, pinning it all into place down that edge, and then we're going to head to the sewing machine to sew it on. And what you want to do is sew as close to the zipper teeth as possible, and this will give it that invisible zip look, although you can still sort of see mine a little bit. And to achieve this look, we're going to use a zipper foot. So this is a different type of sewing foot on the machine, which makes getting as close to the zip as possible a lot more easier because of the positioning of the foot. So I'm just popping this on and then heading off and sewing that zip into place, and then moving the actual zipper up and down to get to the zipper teeth as close as possible with that stitching. And this is what the zip looks like when it's connected on one side. I like to test to make sure I haven't caught any of the zipper teeth in with that stitching, and it goes up and down really well. So now it's time to do the same on the opposite side, connecting the two parts of the dress together, and it is finally coming together. And then I don't know if I did this one a little bit wrong, but I'm just carrying on the seam right down to the bottom from where the bottom of that zip is, as well as finishing off the edges because of the satin fraying a little bit. And then this is the basic part of the dress complete, so we're going to move on to the straps now. So I am using 2 centimeter wide satin ribbon for my straps. However, I'm doing it a little bit differently to what was on the pattern, I believe. So what I'm doing is folding these in half, right side to right side, and pinning them into place. Then I'm going to sew along down that open edge to connect the ribbon together. Then using a safety pin and turning the ribbon right side out so that the nice shiny satin bit is on the outside, and this will then form the straps. I'm also then going to use a hand sewing needle to just do an invisible stitch along the bottom ends to secure the two ends closed, if that makes sense. Then we're going to just baste stitch them to the designated parts on the dress, so that's 2 on the front and then 2 on the back, and these will come together over the shoulders, and you can tie them as tight as you like. And the straps will be sandwiched between the main part of the dress and the lining part of the dress, and this is what they'll look like base stitched to the dress. And then it's time to attach the lining to the main part of the dress. So pinning this along the top edge, lining up all the seams and making sure the straps are inside the 2 sandwiched between so that they can pop out once it's connected. This is a 1 centimeter seam along the top. Then you want to press it, and we're going to do another top stitching to keep it laying flat, but take it slowly this bit and making sure it is all lined up, because it is a little bit tricky, but this is what it will look like before pressing and top stitching. Once the dress has been pressed and top stitched, we can then attach the lining at the zipper part, and this encases all the raw edges inside the dress, and it is all nicely finished, as you can see here. Then it's time to attach the waistband pieces, or the waistlines, to each other. Now this did take me a little bit of time to figure out. You've got to turn it inside out but not fully inside out. It's very complicated and I can't quite remember how I did it, but once this is all attached at the waistline, it's then time to hem the dress. Now ideally you should hem the dress before, and I missed that part in the instructions, but you know, it all worked out in the end. And once the hemming is complete, then the DIY bustier dress is ready to wear and show off to everybody. So there you have how to make a bustier dress and how it has turned out. I love how this has turned out. I was a little bit dubious that it wasn't coming together quite right, and I'm not the best at altering patterns to make them fit a little bit better. I do wing it slightly, but this turned out great nonetheless. Now I think I did make it a little bit more difficult by having the silk and tulle, because they're quite slippy to sew at times, and the pattern does call for like a more cotton material, so that would make it a bit easier to come together. But this was for a wedding and I needed some fancy material, and I think it fits the bill. I also like that it's sort of 1950s inspired, and it has a little bit that Audrey Hepburn look to it, albeit being a little bit more colourful than the black dresses she wore. But yes, I love how this has turned out. So let me know what you think of this project in them comments below as well. And if you have any tips and tricks of altering patterns and fitting them to your body, then please do let me know, because like I say, I am not the best, especially around this area. I think it's one of the most adventurous makes that I have done recently. So yes, leave your comments down below, and if you enjoyed the video, then please do give it a big thumbs up, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button to keep up with all my creative and crafty antics coming up onto the channel. And whilst you're there, hit that hit the notification bell as well, because that will alert you each time the videos go live, and hopefully I'll have a few more sewing projects coming up onto the channel in the next few weeks, so be sure you are subscribed with that notification bell ticked as well. I also have a blog, Ames's Antics, which is linked down below and up above for you to check out, because sometimes there's just a little bit more information over on the blog, so be sure to check that out. And with that said, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day and week, and are able to do something creative and crafty to pass your time, like make your own bustier dress. It'll probably take longer than a week, but whatever you choose to do, I hope you have fun doing it. And until the next one, bye!